Hello, this is Fear Dragon coming at you with another StarCraft 2 netcast. I am back, guys, and excited to be back. I've been busy quite a bit, actually, with school finishing up, moving, etc. But hey, you just cannot keep me away from StarCraft. I just need to cast eventually, so we're going to be starting back up with the content. But you know what, first let's go ahead and introduce these players as we spawn down here in the bottom right hand corner of GSL Whirlwind. On top of the blue Zerg player representing Team Quantic, it is going to be QuanticMaSsan. And he's a really awesome Grandmaster level American Zerg player. He's been playing since the beta, in fact, and actually plays for Georgia Institute of Technology's CSL Collegiate Star League team. And, you know, he actually used to be known as the Homeless Zerg. I'm not exactly sure what the story behind that is, but that is what I've heard. And he's going to be facing off against the Terran up in the top right-hand corner, spawning as the red Terran player in this game. He is also an American Terran player, plays around the GM level as this is a ladder game. And clearly, somehow, he managed to find his way against QuanticMaSsan, a really solid player. You know, not too many people know about this player. He has been GM on the North American ladder. He is SCANanoClouD. So now that you guys know who exactly is playing, it's going to be a Zerg versus Terran. We do have some pretty standard looking stuff coming out of both of these players. No gas guys are being thrown down just quite yet for SCANanoClouD. So if he does decide to throw down that gas guys, we'll be seeing some sort of Reaper. But you know, honestly, on a map like this, especially unless the players end up scouting each other very luckily, very quickly, I'm not expecting too much early aggression from either of these players. Nothing too crazy going to be going on. But, you know, I am really happy to be back. Again, guys, I'm so sorry I was gone for quite a bit of time, just being busy with school and such, but expect some more consistent content coming out of me in the future. I'm really looking forward to getting back on track with my whole YouTube content, as well as even just getting involved with some show matches, some other live casted events and whatnot. But it looks like in the meanwhile, SCANanoClouD is going to be coming in over here. Just going to be taking a peek to see, hey, where is my opponent sitting at right now? It looks like, okay, that looks like a pretty normally timed set of Zerglings. He sees, of course, the expansion as well. So he's going to be feeling pretty good about this game. Doesn't have to be too concerned about anything. And, of course, QuanticMaSsan going to be feeling the same thing. I mean, he sees the command center going up. He's going to think, oh, well, he's probably not doing anything too cheesy right now. Besides, that would have hit just a little bit ago. But we actually see two very quick refineries actually going up for SCANanoClouD. So I'm actually thinking that this is going to be a follow-up into some sort of very fast factory play and potentially even into a fast armory. Because, you know, Hellbat drops have been very effective against Zerg players, especially when you're not at that tip-top highest level of play where you don't have the exact precise reaction time to be able to deal with some of those Hellbat drops. I mean, they can just devastate your mineral line if you're not paying attention for 3 seconds. So definitely going to be a very strong option, as we do see the factory going to be plopping down right next to that barracks, probably going to be building a refinery, or sorry, not a refinery, a reactor on that barracks. So wouldn't it be awesome if barracks could actually build refineries just in the middle of nowhere? You could start mining directly from your barracks. I think that might be a little bit maybe a little bit more imbalanced than Mules. Just a couple of complaints from Zerg players and Protoss players alike, but no worries, man. I mean, Terran is the favorite race of Dustin Browder, or so I've heard. But regardless, QuanticMaSsan just kind of droning up, as you can see. He's finally actually going to be grabbing 2 of his gas cartridges over his natural expansion. Going to be a bit curious to see how he's going to actually open this up, as, you know, Zerg players have kind of shifted away from that style of, I'm only going to make speed Zerglings to defend because I don't want to drop a Roach Warren down. Because when you decide to do stuff like that and you encounter things like Hellbats, because look guys, we have the armory actually going up right now. We're going to see Hellbats coming out from SCANanoClouD. So MaSsan is going to have a hard time actually dealing with Hellbats with just pure speed Zerglings. So he's going to get up that Roach Warren. It makes it much easier because Hellbats just devastate speed Zerglings. Even in large numbers, speed Zerglings have a lot of trouble actually dealing accordingly with them. But in the meanwhile, of course, QuanticMaSsan also going to try and use this opportunity to get up his 3rd expansion. Going to be very important to boost up that economy. And actually at the same time getting up his layer tech. So layer tech over the natural expansion, bit of a curious decision, but nothing too crazy. This timing looks pretty normal. Actually double evolution chamber going down. So I think that MaSsan probably going to be following this up with some very, very heavy Roach or a Speedling play. I think it's more likely to be a Roach play. You can even see the Numanized, Numanized Carapace. I think that is in fact the drop play coming out from QuanticMaSsan. This could actually be a very intense and cool game coming out of him if SCANanoClouD is not prepared for this. We do see that he's kind of poking around, trying to get some damage done with these Hellions. Just going to make sure that he at least denies some of that creep tumor spreadage. And it doesn't seem to want to waste any scans just quite yet. Going to go over here and scout off to see that the third has in fact been taken. Nothing too crazy going to be coming out. No 2 base all-ins coming in. But the Roaches are out as well. So SCANanoClouD gonna have to retreat back over to the safety of his natural expansion. Or he will, at least if he wants to avoid these Roaches. Gonna actually go ahead and just tag that as only a watchtower. Looks like maybe. No. Just going to be moving around the map, see what damage he can get done. Maybe he can sneak back in. Well, we do actually end up having the Hellbat drop actually coming over in here to the main base of QuanticMaSsan. MaSsan does end up losing a couple of drones, but it looks like SCANanoClouD able to get some good damage done. He's actually going to go ahead and engage some of those Roaches. Wow, some really good control coming out of SCANanoClouD as he manages to get out of there. That medevac is so low in health, though, is one hit away. That Queen needs to focus down that medevac if he wants to stop, and the medevac can get away. It looks like SCANanoClouD loses a little bit of focus because he actually moves in with the Hellies over the natural expansion. Let's see how many drones have been killed. 15 drones have been killed with those 2 Hellbats in the medevac, as well as the 4 Hellies over the natural expansion. So that is actually putting QuanticMaSsan in a very uncomfortable position. You can see he is at 40 drones to 47 SCVs, but you have to account for the fact that, hey, I mean, a huge swell of drones just popped out for QuanticMaSsan. And he really doesn't have a whole lot of units. He just has a couple of Roaches out. And in the meanwhile, SCANanoClouD has out a pretty scary number of Hellbats. 6 Hellbats and 3 Marines. Already has his Viking production as well as his medevac production started up. He's getting upgrades from his armory. He's also got up a 3rd command center. And look at this 3rd from QuanticMaSsan. It's not really mining. So MaSsan gonna have to make something happen to actually really come back into this game. We do see another drop coming in to the main base of MaSsan. And it looks like SCANanoClouD not actually gonna go for the drop just quite yet. Is gonna go over to the natural expansion. But that medevac is getting very, very low in health. The Queen's doing a good job target firing down that medevac. And it is gonna go down with one of the Hellbats inside of it. This Hellbat, poor Hellbat, going to be looking for whatever drone kills it can get. It manages to get 2 drone kills, but then gets taken out. I have to say, worth it for MaSsan to at least take out the medevac with only losing 2 drones. Definitely a trade that I think he's willing to take, as, you know, SCANanoClouD does have to be a little bit careful. If he overcommits to too many of these drop plays, losing a couple too many units, he's going to be very susceptible to some very big pressure plays, because, I mean, we don't really see any siege tanks out for SCANanoClouD. It's pretty much just a Hellbat based army, as well as actually this Thor. And Thor is actually a very interesting mix to throw in there. I guess it does make sense considering he is getting those mech upgrades, the Terran vehicles, weapons level 1, as well as the armor level 1. Actually, vehicle ship plating. I believe actually that is the Viking armor plating. So that's a bit of a curious decision. I'm actually really interested to see what he's going to be doing with that, or if he's just going to be somehow transitioning into some sort of battlecruiser army later on, or what. But we do see additional Hellbat drops going in. It looks like MaSsan not actually reacting quite in time this time around, so he is going to be losing a couple more drones, finally pulling away some of the drones. You have to be so careful when you're pulling away your drones, because you do not want to clump them up just like that, as those Hellbats do manage to get some good shots off on some more of those drones. But the Roaches finally do come back in, and that medevac is just gonna barely get out of there. And it looks like at the same time, just a Marine kind of poking around. We do have a Viking that's actually sitting up at 2 kills already. The Overlords do actually have some speed upgrades finished up, so he's going to be able to run away from that Viking, but he will eventually get taken out. Going to be very annoying. As you can see, is actually going to be hard supply cap with 6 Overlords on the way, though. Not going to be the biggest deal in the world. In the meanwhile, SCANanoClouD getting up that 4th and actually a 5th Terran command center. Actually, wow, going to be really pumping out a lot of those mules. And hey man, when you're going for that mech style of play, besides Hellbats and Hellions, there's not really a whole lot to spend your minerals on. But speaking of Hellbats, we actually have some more Hellbats over in the main base. But Mutalisk really going to be a solid answer from MaSsan to be able to take out all of those Hellbats. Let's see how much damage has been done so far. 27 worker kills. That's actually pretty huge. But I mean, I have to say, slowly but surely, MaSsan has really just been doing a better and better job of holding off all these drops. I'm not sure it's really been worth it for SCANanoClouD at this point to actually go for any more of those drops, especially with the Mutos out. I think he's going to have a very difficult time actually getting out too many successful drops. Maybe just if you can utilize some drop play to just keep those Mutos from actually harassing his own expansion, that'll be good. But I mean, beyond that, it's going to be so difficult, as now we can see the Mutos actually looking around for drops, or maybe even just for this Viking. It's actually a really cute play from MaSsan, just trying to scatter around for that. Or actually, did he just see a medevac try and move out or something? Oh, I think that he might have actually seen this medevac try and move out, but with this medevac actually moving in, it looks like it might actually be on an interception path for these Mutos. Are the Mutos going to spot it? They do! The Mutos spot in just the right location, and now we're going to see MaSsan probably try and react to try and take out that medevac. The Queen not actually there quite in time, but now we end up seeing the remainder of the Mutos coming in. The Hellbats are going to be dropped off, and oh my god, they actually might still get some drone kills. No, they do get both taken out right before actually the drones do get taken out, as all of them very low in health. But now we end up seeing Blue Flame has finished researching for these Hellions, and oh my god, +1/+1 research for the Hellions going to be very effective. Drones fighting against Hellions, that is not the situation you want. Even going to be scouting out that swarm host tech research from QuanticMaSsan. Going to be coming over to the main base, roasting a couple more drones. 54 drones have been killed, and additional going to be going down before these Mules finally take out the remainder of those Hellions. This game has been absolutely insane in terms of harassment from SCANanoClouD. Behind this, he has been building up that mech army. He is going to have some pretty devastating upgrades also, with the +2/+1 finished up. And it looks like +2 vehicle and ship levels plating. Oh, that is right, Heart of the Swarm. Of course, vehicles and of course these siege units on the ground do share the armor and weapon upgrades. So that is why he's actually going to be getting those for both Hellions and the Thors and the Siege Tanks and the Hellbats. Is going to be very effective for his little mech style of play. We'll see how effective it is against the Swarm Host transition from QuanticMaSsan, as you know, Swarm Hosts are going to be a bit of an interesting decision. The Hellbats also have fairly short range attacks, but the Siege Tanks are really going to be the key factor for SCANanoClouD in holding off against a lot of those really large numbers of Swarm Hosts. But at the same time, we do have a ton of Hellions coming in over here to the 4th expansion. It looks like there was not a drop over there in the main base. It looks like I missaw that, but this is going to be some really devastating damage. Take a look at the drone count. I mean, think about how many resources SCANanoClouD has actually forced QuanticMaSsan to actually waste on producing those drones. It is so painful to think about, with 78 drones killed and still having 53 drones left. I mean, that is definitely a testament to how hard QuanticMaSsan has been trying to re-drone. But we'll have to see if he's just lost a bit too much. I mean, this is a very scary Swarm Host army, but again, with these Siege Tanks siege up, oh no, the Siege Tanks actually aren't sieged up, and that actually could prove a little bit devastating. You actually might end up losing a bit more than you really wants to in this engagement, as we can see actually a couple of those Siege Tanks and the Thor already immediately following. The Siege Tanks are sieging up a little bit late though, as 3 or 4 of those units actually already do end up falling to basically a free swarm of locusts, and even a couple of additional Hellbats going to be going down. Finally, it does look like this Swarm Host round is going to be a little bit less effective. It does manage to take out a Thor. No, the Thor does survive with 15 health points. But I mean, the Siege Tanks being sieged up is going to be so crucial. But QuanticMaSsan, I mean, he knows exactly what's going on with SCANanoClouD. He knows how immobile this army is. So he says, you know what? Even my locusts are more mobile than you. I can go over here, burrow in, unleash a swarm of locusts on top of your siege up Siege Tanks, or actually away from your siege up Siege Tanks, and then retreat my Swarm Host to safety. And we can see he's actually able to take out a couple of buildings, takes out 1 or 2 starports, and even a tech lab add-on. And this is just an absolutely insane Swarm Host count, as we can see over here, 29 Swarm Hosts. And he's going to be able to come in over here. He might actually be able to catch a ton more of these units on siege, but it looks like the nice scan does go down. He realizes what's going on, manages to siege up just barely in time. Is going to lose 1 or 2 Thors, and wants to see if he tries to push in over here, as all these Swarm Hosts really lacking the Locusts on their back, unable to really defend over here. But that does mean he has a little bit of room to actually retreat. So he's going to have a little bit of breathing room, especially with another swarm of Locusts just now coming out at them. Meanwhile, SCANanoClouD is trying to reestablish a couple of these bases. Going to be trying to get up a 5th expansion while he tries to defend against this massive swarm of locusts constantly just streaming in, and again he's losing more and more units. SCANanoClouD has to do something about this. He's getting very, very close to maxed out, and meanwhile MaSsan actually completely maxed out. Oh my god, he actually... Oh, this is such a smart play from SCANanoClouD. He actually has a nice swarm of Vikings, going to be preventing any of these corruptors from really being able to do anything, as well as these Mutals, and in the meanwhile just using 2 Banshees to start taking out some of these swarm hosts, and that is going to be some really, really annoying harassment. Looks like the Corruptor and the Mutals Cloud is starting to build up quite a bit though, and the Vikings do get taken out. So finally, it looks like those Banshees are going to be at least pushed back a little bit, and with another round of swarm hosts coming in, allowing this other swarm host to actually push up a little bit further with these locusts. He might actually be able to put a little bit more pressure on, but it looks like SCANanoClouD does realize what's going on, and oh, such a smart decision from QuanticMaSsan. Sends 2 little groups of those locusts over there, and actually just keeps all these siege tanks sieged up over at this location, and in the meanwhile sends a nice little swarm of locusts over to this sieged up or unsieged up position over at the top center location. And now with this large group of locusts, this planetary fortress might be seeing the end of its days, and even though it is being repaired by those SCVs being very, very effective, but locusts do a ton of damage over to that army, and in the meanwhile it looks like SCANanoClouD not going to have any of it. He's just going to go for a little bit of a base raid situation. He realizes he's a bit out of position, and with Thors and Siege Tanks and Hellbats, you're really not going to be able to get back into position before your opponent gets back to a defensive position, so you might as well just go and try and see what damage you can do. And I mean, it may or may not work out. He does have very, very good upgrades. 3 upgrades finished up for SCANanoClouD, but at the same time, plus 3 armor upgrades already finished up for QuanticMaSsan, and plus 3 missile attacks finished up for those locusts, and they're going to be pretty effective, but they are kind of filtering in, just trying to slowly take out some of those siege tanks. And you have to remember that SCANanoClouD is not exactly in a terrible economic position. He still has this newly established base. Look at all of these mules actually mining over there. It's still going to be relatively effective, but I mean, look at how much of his army has actually ended up losing, just trying to split up. I ended up sending one of these Banshees over here and actually managed to rack up quite a few kills, but all of this army over here at the natural expansion trying to retreat over to the main, running from Locusts on creep. This is not going to work out very well for SCANanoClouD, although it does look like the Locusts might actually expire before all of these units do get taken out, but there we end up seeing a reinforcing wave of those roaches come in, gonna be able to take out the remaining siege tank and the Thor before really they're able to do too much damage. I mean, not really even getting a whole lot of scouting information, not really seeing, oh, well, my opponent has gotten up something crazy up. Although I guess he did actually end up seeing that greater spire, so that might be a little bit of a tip off. He does have to prepare for those Broodlords, but I mean, he's already been producing Vikings this entire time because he's gone for that nice little Banshee switch. So I'm curious how this is going to go. A nice swarm of locusts coming back in. MaSsan has done a great job retaining that swarm host count, so those locusts are going to be very, very annoying, especially since the entire mech army of SCANanoClouD is a little bit out of position trying to defend over outside the natural expansion. So they're going to be a little bit out of position to defend this 4th expansion over in the center right-hand side, and it looks like that command center is getting focus fire down, but the Corruptor's able to immediately start targeting fire down as soon as it starts to lift off. Will it actually get focus fire down? But the Corruptor's in time. The SCVs are repairing so quickly, and it looks like finally the Vikings are able to step in, push those Corruptors back just a little bit. They do have to be a little bit careful though. They need to make sure that they're doing a good job kiting those Corruptors, or he's actually going to end up losing all of his Vikings. This is actually terrible for him, but at the same time, QuanticMaSsan is stopping all the mining over at this center top left-hand expansion, and that is going to be pretty devastating. That means that SCANanoClouD is really not mining all that much right now. Another wave of locusts able to take out a couple additional siege tanks, but it looks like finally the reinforcing waves of Vikings are able to take out the remaining Corruptors, trying to deal some damage over to SCANanoCloud's 4th expansion. And at the same time, SCANanoClouD never letting up on the pressure, going for Hellion run-bys even at the 26-minute mark, doing some great damage, even with some Hellbats. 8 kills on this Hellbat. Dear God, I hope that's not in drone kills. As we can see, the drone count has actually just dwindled back down to 30 drones. And at the 27-minute mark almost, that is actually just absolutely terrible. 112 drones killed by SCANanoClouD. So we don't even see some Zerg players make 120 or 112 drones in a game, let alone lose that many in a game. So SCANanoClouD absolutely brutal with this constant pressure, all the drops and whatnot. But at the same time, QuanticMaSsan with his crazy locust count And the Swarm Hosts are really just constantly repositioning themselves, doing a great job just showing that, you know what, even though Swarm Hosts have to burrow down to unleash their little Locust army, they can actually still be much more mobile than a mech army. He's able to really capitalize on that. Look at this. He's able to take out a ton of these mech units from NanoCloud. A lot of these siege tanks are very, very expensive, especially considering NanoCloud is only really mining off of what? 1, 2, and I guess barely 3 or 4 gas geysers. I mean, those gas geysers over his natural expansion really not too effective, and even going to be catching a couple more of these units over at this side. This is such an awkward position for NanoCloud. Look at the awkward path that he has to run back just to try and get back over toward the location that you know, MaSsan is actually taking expansions. Although it looks like actually MaSsan taking quite a few expansions, just trying to get up some larvae, I suppose, or just preparing for some massive dronage, I guess, maybe, as he is only sitting at 28 drones, but 193 supply. That means that he's going to have a very, very scary army, and a lot of those scary army is composed in those Swarm Hosts. So the Roach is going to buy a little bit of time until those Swarm Hosts do get over there, and they're going to be able to take out all of these siege tanks. No escape for any of them, no medevac support, no recall from a Mothership Core. They are going to go down, but they are going to go down with a fight. But it looks like, wow, MaSsan actually doing some great transfuse micro over on that hatchery. He says, you are not going to be able to take that out, sir. You're going to lose every single one of those siege tanks, and you are going to hate it. You can't really force, actually, NanoCloud to like losing all those siege tanks. Not even able to snipe off this hatchery. That's going to be so painful for NanoCloud. He's going to be able to come back in over here with some Hellions because, you know, even though NanoCloud has not been able to snipe off a lot of buildings in this game, there's one thing you can count on him killing, and that is workers. Workers. Absolutely the name of the game for NanoCloud. But, I mean, I'm a little bit worried. You can see he's sitting up at 166 supply. Look at how much of his supply is eaten up in Vikings even. And even 55 SCVs still composing in that 175 supply. So really, he doesn't actually have this scariest army. And in the meanwhile, QuanticMaSsan, he has 21 drones, but he's almost maxed out. And as long as he can actually find some way to deal with this Viking Cloud as well as a couple of these Banshees, he is going to be able to do some insane damage to NanoCloud as long as he hits the right locations. And here we end up seeing the Corruptors starting to come in, tossing down some Corrupts on those Vikings, trying to make sure that he gets the favorable engagement because he needs to make sure he has that air superiority so he does not end up losing too many of those Swarm Hosts. He's done a great job maintaining that Swarm Host count for such a long time, but he needs to make sure that he keeps it because he does not have the economy to really reproduce it. Now we can actually end up seeing, surprisingly, for the first time in a while in this game, both these players have very, very similar supplies. As we can see, QuanticMaSsan wants to get a little bit aggressive, wants to shut down a little bit of that gas mining so that NanoCloud won't be able to constantly reproduce this army. We do end up seeing the Corruptors not really taking the favorable engagement over here. There are so many Vikings actually in that cloud, but the Queen's certainly going to be helping out a little bit. No transfuse actually energy left over on those Queens, but the Locust really just doing enough damage to force the liftoff over at this expansion. No more SCVs even left over there to mine, so it doesn't really matter. The command center is just going to go ahead and retreat over back to the natural expansion. But look at this. NanoCloud actually just going for the complete opposite base trade situation. He's just moving in with all of his siege tanks and his Hellbats. Going to be trying to take out as many bases as possible, but he's going to have his work cut out for him. Look at how many hatcheries there are for QuanticMaSsan, and that's going to be quite a difficult situation to try and take out all of them. But I do suppose that Locusts actually do take a while to actually take out all of these buildings, especially once the command centers that do end up lifting off. I mean, he doesn't really have that many Corruptors actually take out those command centers, so maybe it would be better for QuanticMaSsan to just retreat home with these Swarm Hosts. So it looks like he's thinking the exact same thing. Going to try and corner this mech army of just siege tanks and Hellbats. He knows as long as he can get them at a good angle, then he will be able to take out this entire army. NanoCloud does not really have a great economy either right now, just because he's been so hindered by constantly having his expansions denied. So, I mean, he's going to have a hard time reproducing this army. And look at this. The siege tank's forced to siege up, but these are free units. I don't think that MaSsan really cares too much about losing some of these. And any damage that he actually manages to do, any of those Hellbats, any of these siege tanks, MaSsan is definitely going to be happy with. Another wave of those Locusts going to be coming out, trying to even get a nice little split up. I love that little micro decision from MaSsan, and these siege tanks are going to be racking up quite a few kills. I love the cute little positioning of these hidden Hellbats. It's going to be a little bit difficult to target fire those down. They're going to provide some nice cover fire for those siege tanks, but I mean, going to be so difficult for SCANanoClouD to actually get out of position, but I suppose at the same time, I mean, these Swarmholes are basically trapped over here until all these siege tanks do get taken out. So in the meanwhile, that makes it a little bit difficult for MaSsan to actually see some of that map control. Now he does have a handful of those roaches out on the map, as you can see over here. 22 roaches, going to be able to try and deny a little bit extra mining. I'm actually surprised he's not actually moving in over there, but I mean, look at this. A nice little cloud of Vikings and that one Banshee in there. They're going to be able to deal some insane damage over to that little roach squadron, I suppose. But look at this. SCANanoClouD somehow finding the resources to produce additional siege tanks and all those Hellbats. I guess Hellbats are a very good decision. They're very, very cost effective, even against roaches, because when you get into slightly larger numbers, I mean, Hellbats are still quite effective with the splash damage. You can see over here at the roaches are actually just getting cleaned up so fast, and the Hellbats, remember, they're only a pure mineral investment, so I don't think that SCANanoClouD really minds trading some of these Hellbats for those roaches. And now we end up seeing MaSsan dropping drastically in supply, and even though he has all these Swarmholes slowly whittling away at all these siege tanks, it's just not going to be enough. A single Hellbat going to be able to take out that hatchery, and all that will remain is the hive over here at the National Expansion, as well as the main bases or hatchery. And there we end up seeing the well play coming out for QuanticMaSsan, a very mannered player, as he ends up losing the game to SCANanoCloud's really sick play. I mean, let's just go ahead and take a look at how many workers were killed that game. 134 workers. SCANanoClouD never letting up on that harassment, just constantly just saying, you know what, mech armies, I know you're trying to outmaneuver me with Swarmhost just because I have a mech army. You're trying to do all this unburrow and reburrowing micro, sending locusts one way and another, trying to outposition me. You know what? Doesn't matter. I have Hellbat drops. I have Hellion run-bys. I have all kinds of those attacks. I'm going to run my entire army past your entire army and force all of your swarm hosts to burrow in one location just to keep these siege tanks here from, like, preventing them to actually move in and deal a whole lot of damage anywhere else on the map. So some really sick play from SCANanoClouD, and as well as QuanticMaSsan. Again, I really liked a lot of that Swarmhost play, because Swarmhost not really seen too often, even in the Terran versus Zerg matchup, but QuanticMaSsan making it look very, very strong, making it look very, very viable, because even though he was on such a low economy situation for the entire game, he took such a massive economic hit so early on, but he managed to stay in the game and really looked like he had a solid shot in this game for such a long time. So congratulations to SCANanoClouD. He did end up stealing away some of QuanticMaSsan's ladder points. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my commentary in any capacity whatsoever, in which case, if you did, hopefully you'll consider subscribing to my YouTube channel or even my Twitch channel over at twitch.tv/FearDragon64. I have been away for quite a bit of time, but I'm looking to maybe, or not really maybe, I am looking to get out some more consistent content over on my YouTube channel. I really do love and enjoy casting. It's hard for me to actually sit away from casting for such a long period of time. Even when I really wasn't updating my channel, I have been doing casting for events like the URTL, the Underrated Team League, as well as the After Hours Gaming League, and also random other show matches and events that I do get asked to do. But actually, speaking of which, if you have any show matches or anything that you guys want either live casted or just video casted from replays, I'm happy to do it. Please send the inquiry over to feardragon64@gmail.com. I'll take any replays or show matches and whatnot that you want casted, and I'll happily do it. And yeah, awesome. But with that being said, I think that's pretty much it. Looking forward to seeing all your beautiful faces in the future. Hopefully I'll have some good changes coming out in the future, some pretty big changes. So be on the lookout for those. And with that being said, you guys are all looking quite beautiful today. Have a wonderful day, night, evening, whatever. Because you know what? You're beautiful, and that's all that matters. See you guys next time.